Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly for pricing. My email address is tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing a star from the early 2000s, 43 millimeters in white gold. This is the Roger Dubuis Hommage bi-retrograde Perpetual calendar chronograph. It is all of those things in a 43 millimeter diameter white gold case. It is 15.2 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 50.5 millimeters with a 24 millimeter spacing between the lugs. In many ways, this watch is like a large Patek 1463 Tasti Tondi, and I'll show you why in a moment, but you can see that it has a very modern wrist presence. This was a sort of transitional era for Dubuis between the classicism of the 90s and the outrageous styles that would follow later in the decade of the 2000s. This still has the look of the 90s, but on a much larger scale. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, you can see that it wears quite well, but it is pushing out to the edge. So I'm going to say you're going to want a wrist of my size, 16 centimeters circumference or larger, to wear this well. Now, it's not terribly thick, and you can see a lot of the thickness is a sloped bezel and a domed crystal, so it will fit surprisingly well under a sleeve, especially a jacket cuff. Taking one last look down the barrel there and over the top. The strap is incredibly substantial, and as you can see, it is a Roger Dubuis factory strap in brand new condition. We have brown calfskin on the bottom, large rectangular scale alligator leather on the top, gloss finish, bright blue, folded edge, monotone stitch, and you can see that we have a little curved spring bar so that the strap can move without any impediment to its motion against the side of the case. We have a matching Roger Dubuis pin buckle in white gold. It is both polished and satinated. You can see that well right there. Taking a quick look at the case, you can see that it's sheer of side, but with a beautifully stepped lug profile. The lug joins the case with a handsome diminishing seam, and that's a lovely little piece of nuance. The mid-case is satinated, the lug hoods are polished, the lugs come to a little bit of a tapered curvature at their outer edge. You see those Tasti Tondi or round button style chronograph pushers pulled straight from the Patek 1463. We have the Roger Dubuis branded crown. We have a very broad concave bezel that helps to visually thin the watch. We have pusher adjusters for some of the subsidiary functions of the calendar. Of course, it's a chronograph and a bi-retrograde perpetual calendar and a moon phase. Let's start with the highlight of the dial, at least in my opinion. You have a moon phase disc that's made of lapis lazuli, absolutely gorgeous. The rest of the dial is a sort of cream-colored lacquer. It's not white, it's off-white, so it's a bit warmer. We have sub-registers that contain the leap year phase with the month, the constant seconds, the chronograph minutes, and we have lovely Foy-style hands skeletonized at center. We also have an unusual but pleasing radial week indicator. It is a weekly calendar in addition to being a perpetual, so it has that feather in its cap, a bit like Audemars Piguet's latest perpetual calendars. You get a lot of information. You get two separate retrogrades, one for the day, one for the date. So you've got the month, the day, the date, the week, the leap year phase, the moon phase, all of that with a twin register chrono, so you have your chrono minutes and seconds. You can see the extended chronograph seconds hand moving along at a pokey 18,000 vibrations per hour, much like an old pocket watch. This is a very traditional movement. And when we turn it all over, you can see it is Lemania based. It's based on the legendary Lemania 2310, and it is handsomely finished. You can see Geneva hallmark finish. It's on the balance cock. It's also on the base plate. The movement here is doing business as the Roger Dubuis caliber 5610. So they take the bi-retrograde perpetual calendar system that Roger Dubuis developed, and I believe he originally developed this mechanism with Jean-Marc Wiederrecht, who had later found Agenor. They created the original high horology Harry Winston calendar watch in the late 1980s, and I believe this mechanism is based on that one. So you've got the bi-retrograde perpetual with weekly calendar, then you have the Lemania base, which is manual wind, 48-hour power reserve. It beats weight 18,000 vibrations per hour. It's adjusted in 5 positions. It pivots on 21 jewels. It has a beautiful combination of a capped Geneva-style column wheel with a lateral clutch, And then we have a handmade overcoil hairspring, so in any physical position, the watch keeps excellent consistent time because the hairspring mass is centered and it will develop concentrically. It will breathe concentrically. The finishing is outstanding. We have satination and beveling on the steel parts. We have beveling and Côte de Genève across the brass bridges. All screw heads are black polished with chamfered slots in circumference. The swan's neck and the regulator cap, as well as the stud holder, have been black polished. You can see that the column wheel is capped, and the reason for that is historically the column wheel would be capped to prevent the horns from popping out of the crenellated peaks of the column in conditions of shock. Well, we don't use our chronographs, at least our high horology chronographs, like that anymore, but it's illustrative of the fact that many finishing techniques started as functional measures. All of this water resistant down to 30 meters, and of course, a perpetual calendar. It can deal with irregular length months, it can deal with leap years, and this is a very, very rare model. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.